What's going on, everybody, and welcome into a brand new hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Jacqueline D'Agostino, Jenny Dell, the JDs, alongside with Mike Renner with you on a Monday. And Mike, there really is no off season because you're a busy guy, right? You've been doing all, the prospect rankings and getting on podcasts about mock drafts. You're busy at this time of the year.
This is my busiest time of the year. From now through April, this is when it really heats up. So I love it. I can't wait to talk about some of these prospects.
Yeah, and you have a trip that you're going on.
Yeah, later today we're going to Indianapolis, beautiful Indiana. So.
Yeah, for the NFL Combine. I'm sure
what was that? I felt a little beautiful Indiana. You gave kind of like a win.
I went to school in Indiana, so I can't too much, but it doesn't compare to South.
You've frozen a lot over in college or Indiana. Anyways, also say the Combine is coming up. It's about 3 days away out of Lucas Oil Stadium in Indiana and Indianapolis. And here's the schedule that we are looking at. Of course, defensive linemen, linebackers, that kicks off on Thursday. The D-backs and tight ends on Friday. Saturday, we get into some fun with the running backs, the receivers, the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about a certain quarterback who is not going to be working out in just a moment. And then, of course, on Sunday, that is when we see the O-line take center stage. It all kicks off Thursday, February 27th at 3 p.m. Eastern out of Indianapolis. All right, let's welcome in Bryant McFadden to join the conversation as we are previewing the Combine, and we're going to go through each position group and talk about guys that we need to watch, prospects that are catching your eye. And we are starting, though, before that, the big news coming out about the Combine in terms of one of the top quarterback prospects is Shedeur Sanders. Reports out there that he is not going to throw, still going to interview, of course. And, Mike, I'll start with you. Is that super surprising? We've seen it in the past with big-name quarterbacks that are towards the top of the draft boards.
It's not surprising for a couple of reasons. One is because he's already getting, top 10 sort of hype. A lot of times those guys opt out of that event. You're not working with guys that you know well. You can be on different pages. You can look bad for reasons outside your own control. But also because he kind of has a weak arm. So if he's going up against these other top guys here, whether it's Cam Ward if he's throwing, whether it's Tyler Shuck if he's throwing, he's going to have like the weakest arm of these top guys. And so if you're going, he throws, and then a guy with a much stronger arm goes right after you, it's not going to make you look great in the eyes of NFL evaluators. So I don't blame him for skipping this event.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I'm not surprised at all because, to Mike's point, when you look at the last few combines that we all watched, the high-level guys, the top quarterbacks, all declined to not participate at the combine. A year ago, Caleb Williams didn't throw. Jaden Daniels didn't throw. Drake May didn't throw. It's different than it once was, decades or so ago when you were the high-level quarterback. You were going to throw at the combine. Now guys are taking it into consideration of opting to not participate, to do everything at their college campus, throwing to wide receivers that they know extremely well, they have a relationship with, and just being able to do so under your own terms. So I'm not surprised to hear Shedeur Sanders decline to not participate. And to Mike's point, it will not hurt his draft stock at all.
Ryan Wilson has Sanders going 3rd overall to the Giants in his latest mock draft. Now to the rest of the quarterbacks. So outside of Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, those are kind of the two quarterbacks that we keep hearing, and then we keep hearing this isn't a great class over and over and over again. So you got Ward, you have Sanders. We kind of throw Jackson Dart in that sometimes. Then who? Who are the quarterbacks we need to look out for?
I think the guy that has the biggest chance to make himself the most money at the Combine is Jalen Milroe from Alabama, just because he has something that no one else in this class does, and it's potentially 4.3 speed. Now, a lot of times quarterbacks don't run. I think Sam Hartman was the only guy who ran last year, and he ran like a 4.8 something. So a lot of the top guys usually don't run. But when you're Jalen Milroe,
Do you have something to say,
I was going to make a joke, and I'm not. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Sorry, ignore me.
When you're Jalen Milroe, though, when this is your #1 skill, when this is your biggest selling point to NFL teams, I think you do it. I think he should run. I hope he does run. And if he does run somewhere in the 4.3s, he is in that mix for the QB3 or QB4 in this draft class because he is so dynamic.
And for me, another guy, when you talk about being able to get into that top 3, top 4 conversation at the quarterback position is Kyle McCord. He did a great job for Syracuse. The thing I love about what he did, not just from the individual side of things, but how he just made everyone around him better. I mean, he threw for 30-plus touchdowns, 34 to be exact. He completed 66% of his passes, threw for 4,700 yards to a bunch of wide receivers that we do not consider to be day 1, day 2 type guys, but he still had production. 12 interceptions, but of course he had that nightmare of a game against Pitt where he threw 5 interceptions. So overall, he was very, very smart with the football. He doesn't play scared. He has a nice touch, and he's an ultimate gunslinger given the opportunity. So I really believe if Kyle McCoy goes out and just continue to do what he's done since his season ended with Syracuse, because he had a great all-star market. I mean, he went on the circuit and did extremely well. If he continued to provide that same momentum in Indy, I believe his name will be sprinkled in that conversation when you look at top 3, top 4, top 5 quarterbacks that will be drafted.
Yeah, most passing yards in a season there in the ACC. I feel like a lot of people forget that Kyle McCord is sitting right there at the top. Yep. Let's talk about the wide receivers, because it's an interesting situation here, because we think Travis Hunter, who's, wide receiver, corner, he's in the conversation. But outside of that, Mike, I know we talked about T-Mac too, but who are some other wide receiver prospects that you're going to be keeping a close eye on that could be game changers down the road?
Yeah, the guy I'm looking for the most is Kyle Williams from Washington State. He's a guy that went down to the Senior Bowl. I thought he had himself a great week. And when I flip on the tape, I see the best athlete in this draft class. I go through every year before the combine and I predict 40s for a lot of the top guys just to hone my eye as a scout. He was the guy who had the fastest 44 for anyone in this draft class. I think he's going to run the low 4.3s. I see an explosive dude before the catch and after the catch, where he had 21 broken tackles a year ago. Because of all that, I expect him to test out the gym. And after that, he could very easily be a 1st or 2nd round pick at the end of the day.
Well, my guy is one of the guys that I would like to let you all know that he's a part of my Get Your Popcorn Ready crew.
Wow.
Right?
Oh,
Get your popcorn ready, because he's going to put on a show. And that's Tez Johnson. Now, the thing about Tez Johnson, he's around 5'9", 155, 160, depending on the day of the week. But one thing he has is quickness and speed. He's quicker than a squirrel in traffic. He is unguardable. He went to Mobile, and Mike, you know about this. No one could cover him. He was outstanding. You look at his numbers. He had great numbers at Oregon over the last 2 seasons. But what he did at the Senior Bowl was just confirm everything that we saw on tape, plus more. And when you look at the success that other undersized wide receivers have had in the National Football League, Xavier Worthy, undersized, not big, extremely productive. Tank Dell, when healthy, extremely productive. They have opened the window for a guy like Tez Johnson, because the first thing we talk about with him, well, he's too small. Well, we've seen smaller guys go to the NFL and do extremely well. So he's the first member of my Get Your Popcorn Ready crew, Tez Johnson, because he's going to put on the show.
And I think Tez at the Combine specifically has a good chance to make himself some money, because he's going to be going back-to-back with guys who are like possession wide receivers. There's not a lot of guys who have juice in this draft class at wide receiver. So it's going to be like him and then a guy who's like 6'2", 220, who runs like a 4.6. And Tez is going to look like a god compared to these guys. So I do think he's going to have himself a good Combine.
And an incredible story, too. For folks that don't know about Tez Johnson's story, take a look into it. His brother is Bo Nix, so there's, a lot of family love there and success, hopefully, at the next level. We're going to skip over the running back class just today. I know we're going to be talking about it, but you look at kind of the stars there. You have Ashton Genty, you have Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson. I mean, the list there is very impressive, and I know we're going to be touching on that throughout this week. We're going to move on now to something that might have changed a little bit with the narrative of the Super Bowl, one can say. One of the position groups that really helped find that success for the Eagles, I mean, really, it was all the defensive players when you look at that Super Bowl. But you think like defensive end, D-tackle, and defensive backs. And we're going to start with D-backs now. Give us some names of prospects that we're looking out for.
The guy I'm looking out for is the guy who could be a first-rounder in the safety class. It's Zika Manwari from South Carolina. Get ready to hear this guy's name a lot throughout the draft process, because he's 6'3", 227 pounds, and he may very well run the 4.3. This guy has some of the best range in this draft class. He is big, he hits, he's physical. There's really not a lot he can do from like a physical perspective. The guy is as impressive as you'll see at the position. A little rough around the edges when you watch his game, but NFL teams buy into traits and what you can do in the future, not what you can do right now. This guy in the future could be a all-pro type of player with what he brings to the table.
Hey, Mike, great minds think alike. This is the guy. Yep. He's another member of my Get Your Popcorn Ready crew. Nick, when you talk about his measurables, you gave us his numbers, right? If Kyle Hamilton, right, and Cam had a brother, it would be Nick Emmanwori and Cam Chancellor. If they had a brother, a football brother, it would be Nick. 6'3", 227. He's a ball-hawking player like Kyle Hamilton. He has the ability to come down and be disruptive like Cam. 9 interceptions there at South Carolina. You can have him in the box. You can have him in the post. He can play the slot. He can play athletic tight ends. And the thing about him, the athleticism, last spring in Columbia, South Carolina, they're on campus. Jumped a 42-inch vert during their testing. He repped out 225 24 times. So he has strength, he has the athleticism, and he's very, very explosive. And to your point, I would not be surprised to see old Nick drop a 4.3 in Indy because he has the ability to do so because he has the overall top-end speed. So, Nick, welcome to my Get Your Popcorn Ready crew.
Real quick, before you go, the mom in me is having a panic attack right now watching you talk while eating popcorn because it's like one of the top choking hazards.
Literally.
Can you be careful, please?
Yeah, B-Mac, I had like kettle pop like last week on the show, and I was like literally talking about, I don't know, like the Celtics or something, and I started choking on popcorn mid-show. So I'm anxious to see if the popcorn's going to stay out, and if you guys are on the same page again when we're talking about D-line and linebackers. Who are some names we need to watch out for here, Mike?
I'm going to go with Texas A&M's Shamar Stewart. True junior coming out. This guy might be the most impressive edge athlete I've seen since Myles Garrett. He is going to run at 282 pounds. It would not surprise me if he ran the 4.4s. I have not seen a guy that big and that explosive in my decade of doing draft prospect analysis. Now, you got to square why he only had 1.5 sacks with this insane physical profile. But again, you're not paying and drafting what a guy did in college. You're drafting what he could do in the NFL with NFL coaching and years of seasoning under his belt. And this guy, just getting ready for it, he's going to have an all-time combine, maybe even better than like Trayvon Walker's when he came out of Georgia.
Yeah, he makes the crew as well. The thing I love about Shamar Stewart, I really believe at A&M, they did him a disservice because they didn't allow him to attack, play in and play out. Oftentimes when you watch his film at A&M, he was catching blocks. No, he's a guy that can be disruptive because of his size. He's 6'6", 290. And it's not a Doritos 290. He's not eating snacks. It's an avocado 290. You know, he's eating nice. He's chiseled. He's ripped. He is a guy that's well put together. And to your point, yes, get ready because when he gets down to run the 40, you might want to stand up. Because I don't know if you've ever seen a guy who's 6'6", 290 run a sub 4.4, but he has the ability to do so. Word has it coming from his camp that he will either run a 4.4 or worst case scenario a 4.6. If he runs a 4.6 at 6'6", 290, we're still jumping for joy. But if he happens to run anything in the 4.4s or 4.5, look out. He will climb the draft charts.
All right. B-Mac, Mike, we certainly appreciate it. Jenny Dell, Jacqueline D'Agostino here as we are going through the NFL draft prospects. We have 3 days to go until the NFL Combine officially kicks off, and we're going to be talking about this time after time, and the conversation continues, Jenny, on With the First Pick.
It certainly does. For more on this upcoming draft, you got to check out With the First Pick pod. The NFL Combine starting this Thursday. You know, new pods are going to be coming your way. Their latest show has their latest mock draft.